Now, as I'm sure you know, the Prime Minister announced yesterday, alongside Australia and Canada, that the British government will now formally recognise the state of Palestine in order, he said, to revive hope of peace and a two-state solution.
The Americans, though, have refused to grant Palestinian officials visas ahead of the UN General Assembly in New York later this month, meaning they'll be unable to represent the state in person. We're joined now by Foreign Office Minister Hamish Falconer. Very good morning to you. I wonder if you can just explain to our viewers and the families of the hostages that remain in Gaza why this is not a massive win for Hamas.
Good morning. Let me just start with the hostage families, who I've met many times as the minister. I used to be a hostage negotiator. The anguish that they have felt is obviously absolutely enormous. It has been a hellish roller coaster for them. As I said to them a few weeks ago when I met with them, everything that we are doing, we have the hostages in mind. It is vital for the hostages, as most families with loved ones still detained say, that there is a path towards an agreement. It has been agreements that has secured the release of the previous hostage releases. And what we are doing is try to make those agreements more likely. We secured in July a commitment from all 22 members, the countries who are part of the Arab League, that Hamas must have no role in the future of Gaza, that they must be disarmed. What we are doing in relation to recognition is far from rewarding Hamas. It's trying to create the conditions for their total defeat.
Okay.
We want moderates
suggesting
in Palestine.
That the situation that the hostages find themselves in at 25 to 9 this morning is improved from the situation they were in at this time yesterday morning? Are you seriously saying that you've done them a favour?
Of course, the situation today is not different from what it was yesterday for the hostages.
But it's worse for the hostages, surely.
The hostages are held by Hamas. Hamas do not believe in a two-state solution. They believe in a one-state solution from the river to the sea. What we are doing is creating the conditions for two states, recognising the second of those states, the state of Palestine. We are trying to create the conditions whereby a comprehensive ceasefire is easier because it is clear who would take over in Gaza.
Why didn't you wait for the hostages to be released? I mean, because you could be wrong. Your calculations could be way off centre as far as they're concerned. Why didn't you just wait for that situation to resolve itself before recognising the state of Palestine? Why not just wait a bit until the hostages were at least safe, those of them who are left alive, safe and sound?
Richard, if you speak to the hostage families and you ask for them to wait, they will tell you how long they have been waiting. You are right that not all the hostages who are still unaccounted for are likely to be alive. We have done everything that we can. We will continue to do everything that we can. I am also the minister responsible for British nationals in trouble overseas. I work every day on cases of British nationals detained. This is nothing but the highest possible priority, but we could not wait. The situation is deteriorating for the hostages, for the Palestinians in Gaza, for those in the West Bank who are facing increasing number of violent settlements. Time is running out, and we had to act now to hold open the possibility of two states, moderate governance, the defeat of Hamas, and two peoples living in peace side by side.
How on earth can you possibly say that Hamas can't be involved in a Palestinian state if, as reported by Channel 4 News, polls show that Hamas would win elections in a Palestinian state?
So firstly, it is not just me saying it. We secured in July a first ever commitment from the whole region that Hamas can have no role. There is a commitment from the Palestinian Authority. But you recognise
democracy works through elections.
I do recognise that democracy works through elections.
So how would you get involved? How would you get involved in the elections to make sure that Hamas don't have a role?
So the Palestinian Authority has been clear, after a ceasefire, within a year, there should be elections, and the people standing for those elections must be committed to peaceful coexistence. That is what the Palestinians are proposing, and that would be a measure that would ensure that Hamas, who are not committed to peaceful coexistence, would not be able to stand in such elections.
The mood music, as I'm sure you're aware, that is coming out of Israel over the last 24 hours is that far from furthering the proximity of a two-state solution, this announcement has had the opposite effect. that there are plans afoot now to increase settlement in the West Bank, Israeli settlement in the West Bank. So, in fact, we could end this month, we could end this year, further apart than ever before.
Richard, the extent of the British and Israeli government's disagreement on these questions is well known. They have been expanding settlements violently in the West Bank for the entire period that I have been the Middle East Minister. Just within the last month, they approved plans for a massive settlement that would effectively divide the West Bank in obvious contravention of any idea of two states. The idea that the decision that we announced yesterday is what has precipitated further settlement expansion in the West Bank is for the birds.
So what pressure can you put on the Israeli government then to stop these illegal settlements in the West Bank? What can you do to practically change the situation as opposed to making airy statements?
Well, Richard, diplomacy is important. Statements are important, but it is not all we do. I've announced 3 waves of sanctions against violent settlers. I have announced from the House of Commons sanctions against Mr. Smotrich and Mr. Ben-Gvir, 2 ministers in the Israeli government, who, in their personal capacity, have made some of the most violent and aggressive statements about settlement expansion. We will take practical steps as well as statements in order to try and ensure that we get the future we want to see for the region. But it is not just us. We are doing this with our partners. By the end of this week, 4 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council will have recognised a Palestinian state. We announced those sanctions on Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in partnership with our key allies, including Canada and Australia. We will continue to work diplomatically to try and see the peace and stability in the region that is so desperately needed.
Well, last week we thought we were partners with the Americans, stood alongside them, gave them President Trump a massive state banquet. Even he thinks the decision that you've made rewards Hamas. And that's quite something to unite the American president and Hamas themselves, who think this is a victory for their cause. I want to ask you, though, before we let you go, about the remarkable gentleman that we just interviewed here on the programme. His name is Don Butt, and he was 18 years old on D-Day and was there at the Normandy landings. He wasn't old enough to go all the way up the beach and take part, but he was holding the rope and enabling troops to disembark. And we know the scenes and the perilous scenes, bombs and bullets flying everywhere on D-Day back in 1944. Back in 2014, the French president said every single veteran of the Normandy landings should get the Legion d'honneur. And let's put it boldly, someone who's 100 years old doesn't have long left. By his own acknowledgement, he said it would mean everything to him to get the Legion d'honneur for his service. What pressure can you put on the French president to honour the remaining veterans of that heroic D-Day?
D-Day was heroic. I'm the MP for Lincoln. We played a full part. The RAF flew many of its most important sorties from Lincoln. I'll take up this case and see what we can do.
You will. You'll take it up with the President's office, will you?
I'm not sure that it's usually the junior minister from the Foreign Office who gets to talk to President Macron, but let me see what I can do.
Well, thank you. We take that at face value, and that's good to hear.
We will pass that on to Don Butt. He will be thrilled because he and the other veterans deserve the greatest honour from the French, as promised. And we thank you for leaving that on a positive note, Hamish
Because I have to say, I think you'll find you're pushing at an open door here. He was there. He did behave with exemplary bravery. He actually disobeyed orders in order to help the troops get ashore. He was under fire 4 times that day. If anybody deserves a Legion d'honneur, it's him.
Well, they all do, don't they?
Well, of course they all do, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.